and now we will just be awkwardly silent while we count down.
5.
I got McDonald's fries lying around somewhere. This is like a bad look if I'm like,
guys, I'm trying to count down. All right, 5 seconds. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Don't Talk If You Don't Know, the official podcast dedicated to all things high-level North American team fight tactics. My name is Frodan. We are back with episode 20 today on March 7th, 2023. And this is the Midset Finale reviewed with Bryce Blum, my co-host, Bossoskills and Milala. So let's go ahead and check in with everybody. Bryce, how you doing?
You know, this podcast is so funny. Whenever I have like a hard day and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do the podcast, and I come upstairs, then I'm like, oh, I just like immediately fold in TFT. It's just like the universally good thing in my life. It's great. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you are here as well. And two players that I'm very ecstatic to have because we've talked about them so many times in passing, and maybe you've seen them, compete or even play in ladder against your favorite players, but they crushed it this past week at the Midset Finale. So let's welcome in currently Bossoskills, who finished 3rd at Midset. Bosso, what's up, man? Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bossoskills. I also go by Nick or Nico, whichever one you want to call me.
All right, Milala's like grinning like crazy. What are you smiling about?
No, I'm just excited because I feel like being on the show is like pretty cool, and I'm just glad I can do it with Nico.
Oh wow, that's so great! Wow, I mean that actually might be a sound clip we might use in the future. Thank you ahead of time.
Yeah, it's like the most wholesome clip in the history of the show. This is great. We're really happy to have you, Milala. Before we even get into your origin story, do you know the backstory meme with you and Frodan? Were you aware of that as it was going on?
Yeah, I think the first power ranking and the entire Soju thing. Yeah, I was watching it the entire time.
It was great, and he was right too. That's the best part about it. Is that so as much as Soju mauled it about him ranking you over him, he was completely correct at the time.
I feel like we have to actually tell that story.
Oh, please.
So we're just jumping straight into it, Milala, because that was your intro.
My bad. This is why Dan is the host. He drives the steady ship. I just immediately went on a tangent.
No, it's all good. I mean, that's kind of what the podcast is. The reviewed episode is really for reflection, also getting to know some of the competitors, because honestly, you guys saw a lot of what happened, and so we don't have to necessarily walk through that action. But the backstory behind Milala and this whole power rankings at first was because there's a period of time, was it set 6 that this was happening, where it felt like there was a changing of the guard at the time in North American TFT. At the time, it was still the established names that are making this power rankings, right? Bryce and I were doing our first episodes, but we kind of recognized that the names were almost the same every single edition. And so I was specifically motivated to try and find new and upcoming talent. And at the time, Milala was posting really good results. And Soju was a player that at the time was kind of losing form because his motivation was waning, right? By now, people understand Soju goes through periods where sometimes he's willing to grind infinite and sometimes he's just, playing Valorant and he doesn't even know anything about the patch. This was one of those patches where he didn't know anything. And so I ranked Soju really low. It was the first time I was taking a risk at the battle. I'm like, yeah, everyone's ranking based off potential, but I'm ranking based off form. I think Soju's kind of 13th or 14th or something like that. And I put Milala, a person that had good results in tournaments and ladder, 11th or 10th, right above him. And Soju read my rankings out loud on his stream. And he got so heated and mad. He's like, what is this ballot? How is he putting, Milala? He's putting Milala over me? And he got, so crazy. But chat loved it because, of course, anything that's chat loves more than watching Soju succeed is watching Soju mauled. And so I totally leaned into it. I changed my green screen background that weekend. I started casting and saying Milala greater than Soju and everything like that. And Milala had a pretty good weekend. I don't think you went super, super far, but you still did a pretty good result. And I was drafting you on fantasy, stuff like that. So that kind of originated as the story of Milala. I didn't even know you were paying that close attention to it. What was going through your head as that was happening, Milala?
Yeah, so I think initially we have our little Discord server. At first it was just me, Bosso, and Paper Cheese and Kevy Zhao. And I think at the time it was Paper Cheese messaged the Discord. He's like, dude, someone just power ranked you 14th. And then it's they put you over Soju, and Paper Cheese was just freaking out. And I was like, oh shit, why did he rank me and stuff? But then I think right before that, I think it was before Jade Cup. I think I had like pretty decent results because like I was like triple final lobby, Innovation Cup, Challenger Series, and then Astro Cup. Like I was like the biggest choker like on the planet. Like every time I got into final lobby, I averaged like a 7. So it was like really really bad.
And
then, like I think
sorry to actually finish your thought. Finish your thought.
yeah, but then like before that or like after that power rank came out, there was the high roller tournament, and I did like really well. Like I was supposed to win that tournament, but I actually choked it again. Like I played a game with like RC Volley Bear instead of making Rage Blade. It was like really bad. But then yeah, I think I did okay in J Cup, but I didn't like make any real progress.
So what I was going to ask, so what you just described that you were choking in final lobbies, that is the only reason why I think Asa became the name that he did and you didn't. I think that actually when we were having the conversations on the podcast about the up-and-comers and who was in the running for kind of new player of the set, it was the two of you. It felt like a two-horse race for a while.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering, like, do you feel like you've like changed as a player? Like, do you feel like that's something you've gotten over? And if so, what was that journey like for you? Because I imagine that was tough.
Yeah, so I think like initially like for at least at Inno Cup and like Challenger Series, like at Inno Cup there was like Aniko, Goobums, Appies, and at the time like Pawn Up, they were like really good players, and like I just felt like I guess like the imposter syndrome, like I don't deserve to be here, like I'm just like a random. And then at Challenger Series it was just like New Battle, like just absolutely destroying everyone.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so it was just like
that looked like a fucking
right.
like an NBA player playing at like a high school game or something. It was fucking ridiculous how much he was better than everybody.
It was actually like so disgusting. Like he was the best player like in this on the server by far. He was playing with like 6 random players that like that shouldn't even be there. But I think like by now, like especially in set 8, I feel like I'm like one of those guys. Like I don't think like I'm as good as Nuvel or anything, but like I think like I think going into midset I would have ranked myself like top 10. And like I think I'm like one of those guys that like is a name that you shouldn't be too surprised if I make final lobby anymore.
Ooh, I like it. What? Okay, so Bossoskills, it feels like you want to reply to that. You've been chuckling the whole time. Do you agree with that assessment?
I mean, yeah, I mean, Milal's just a funny guy, you know. You just watch this guy talk, and it just makes you want to laugh. But I mean, I was mainly chuckling because I remembered because we were so close back then. I remember I was giving him shit for like every single tournament that he choked. I was just giving him shit in Discord for like final lobby. Like I think Astral Cup he makes final lobby with like the most points ever. He just goes 8-8 and goes like 7th. And then like the high roller tourney, he has like meditation 3 and he has like the best spot for Corki ever.
Oh, I remember this
one
game.
Deja and he's just pivoting Deja. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck is this guy doing? Anyways, but yeah, I think he's honestly, I think he's probably like a top 10 player going into midset. I think he had really solid performances set 8 so far, and then obviously at midset he went second, so he kind of like stopped the choker narrative that he had created by, you know, choking final lobby so many times. Going second definitely is not considered a choke by any stretch of the imagination, especially with 32 points. So
Totally.
I think
definitely.
So I will say, as you're evaluating Milala's play, and I want to definitely get to the inverse of the situation, Nico. So be ready for that. But you guys, the information coming out of your group specifically, as it relates to the quality of play, specifically current form of your players, is some of the most inconsistent shit I've ever heard. Like, usually within these groups, it's like everyone agrees, like, okay, Sox is a beast right now. It's like, okay, Sox is a beast right now. Or like, oh, Soju's actually good right now. And everyone's like, okay, Soju's actually good right now. But you motherfuckers, you guys are all over the place. I'm trying to decide my draft strategy, and I'm messaging a bunch of you, and like, literally, I have to call out Showtime because he giga griefed my draft. I was thinking about drafting Milala, and I reached out to him to start talking about quality of players, and he's like, Milala is so bad right now. He thinks AD line is broken. Whatever you do not draft Milala. Okay?
Wait.
Before
why are you talking
draft.
to Showtime in the first place?
I agree.
What sequence of events led you down this path?
But wait a second. Here's the thing. During the show at 6:40, he sends me, "Yo, I completely changed my mind. Milala is a fucking beast. He's a steal, bro. $15 for Milala is legit daylight robbery, if I am being honest." It was during the show, man, so I didn't see it, and I didn't draft him. God damn it, Showtime.
Wait, so Showtime is correct, but you just never get to see his prediction before it happens. You only get to see it after.
Yeah, he flipped and he was on the right side of history on that one for sure. By the time it was all over, it didn't save my draft, but he was right.
That's hilarious. We'll talk a little bit more about Midset, but we discussed Milala's journey of how he's kind of gotten over that hump, his journey through set 6 and set 7. Let's talk about Bossoskills. You kind of started off like, first of all, the only time I really recognized you is because I heard about the NG clan, which I kind of want history about, like what the NG clan is. Totally. By the way, it kind of felt like it never ever got talked about. We heard about MD with like Pocket Gum and Yubi, but there's like another clan NG. What was that all about?
So I mean, basically, when I first started like really getting into TFT in like 5.5, and I had Tay added from like on PBE. We were playing set 6 PBE, and I had Tay added on PBE, and so like he just introduced me to a bunch of like his friends and like random people that I knew in the community, and there was just like a bunch of us playing PBE, and then after that we sort of became friends and grew closer, and then this was towards the end of like the COVID lockdowns, and this was like when TC1, Tactician's Crown 1 was being held in New Jersey, and so Poppin Jung, who was also one of the people that I was really close to, was also in New York, and I just came to New York for school at this time, and then I don't even know where Tay was driving in from. Tay is just like all over the place all the time, but basically we made a plan that we would meet up at TC1, and we would just like see each other, we would play, we would have fun, we'd go eat dinner and stuff. And so the night went really well, and then basically after that we decided, Tay was basically like, fuck it, let's start a clan. And then, you know, no one had any ideas, and so we just looked at Tay because he basically gave us the idea, and he just decided to name it NG, which stood for no grass, because we were just gonna sit on our asses and play TFT all day and never touch any grass. That's basically how it was started, and it was never really like a big thing. All of us were like pretty mediocre players in the grand scheme of things, like when we started it. And even like I mean, I took NG out of my name this set, but it's still like a big part of me. That's basically how I met a lot of people, and then like I met Milala through Pop and Junk's Twitch chat actually, and then so basically that sort of started my like journey to meeting people and like growing my connections in the community. And so I'm really thankful to Tay and Popping for that kind of opportunity that really helped me get into, you know, meeting all these cool, amazing people.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It feels like you are the standout player from that group. Is anyone else still grinding TFT the way you are from NG?
I think Poppin is like IRL stuff now. I think he's like I think he got a job as like a software engineer, and he moved in with his girlfriend, I believe.
Oh wow.
And then I think Tay is just like a lot of work stuff too. And he hasn't really liked any of the recent sets as much. Like he didn't really like 7.5, he didn't really like set 8. And he's had like a lot of work stuff, so it's
so you're the last one standing.
Yeah.
By the way, your self-assessment of as a mediocre player, I don't know if you heard, but Dan agrees with that. He talked about it in broadcast. He was like, listen, my origin story with the name Bossoskills is thinking, oh, I'm in this guy's lobby, it's so free. Basically, is what he said. Okay, so why did you feel the same way when you would see That's So Froden in your lobby?
Oh. I mean, I didn't really see Froden in that many of my lobbies. Usually he was like a few hundred LP below me.
Yeah, right. Get him, Nick.
But I mean,
oh man.
That being said, I actually remember in like set 7 and set 6, I saw like a lot of people. Well, I felt like somewhat slighted in terms of like rankings and stuff, because I didn't get recognition. But honestly, looking back at it, I just was not a very good player, to be completely honest. But, I mean, I was always like, because I was with Milala for a lot of the time, right? So I would see him, and I was like happy for him because he's my friend. But obviously deep down, there's like some sort of deep burning jealousy eating away at my heart, and like because we kind of like prepped together, we studied together, we coached each other, all that sort of stuff. And then Milala was having a lot more success than I was. But honestly, I really was just a mediocre player at that time. So at the time, I felt slighted, but now looking back at it, I realized that, I kind of sucked.
All right, I love where this is going, and I want Milala to respond before we jump actually into the meat of the podcast. But I want to ask a really important question: what was one or two of the defining things that really helped you get to that next level? Because clearly you are competing at an extremely high level. You know, you're basically at that elite tier at the moment. What was that difference maker between sets that helped you get to that jump?
Is this for me or is this for Ryan?
This is for you,
Either of
Nico.
you.
Actually, you know what? Both of you. Bossoskills was you
I'm really
first.
curious about both of you. You guys have both made the leap relatively recently.
So I would say for me, I think I actually made the leap more like towards the end of like 7 and 7.5, but I just had a bad patch in like I forgot which tournament it was at the end of 7.5, but that was a really bad patch for me and I didn't perform well enough to go to regionals. But for me, like making the leap, I think a lot of it was just like really getting someone to like go over your, especially your tourney VODs. I think for like players who are sort of in like the top 160 range for like these tournaments, and who like sometimes, you know, are getting like day 2 or like early day 3 but don't really like consistently make day 4 lobbies or like deep runs, I would say that a lot of it just has to do with like finding someone to look over your games, specifically in tournaments, because that's when you're like you're locked in, you're trying your hardest, and like just telling you what they think you should do wrong. And I think that helped me a lot in set 7, having Milala look over my games. And then in set 8, there's like a lot more people. There's like a whole Discord, and there's tons of people who are giving me advice. So I think that's helping me grow more. But that would be I think that's what did it for me, and that would be my advice for anyone who's kind of stuck in that same sort of spot that I was.
Okay, before we get to Milala's answer, I want to ask a quick follow-up question. So it sounds like you're describing the server, Showtime Sucks, as it is properly named,
best name ever.
as like a meaningful part of this, that you think like that group of people have like actively reviewed your games and helped a little bit.
Yeah,
and
I would say that's accurate.
do you think that's true for everyone? Because I was so Weijin, I don't know if you heard, but during his winners interview, he was almost the opposite. I felt like he was kind of downplaying the role of the server. Not like he was not valuing your guys' support and friendship at all. It didn't feel like that to me, but it was like he made it sound like it was like very informal. Like it wasn't like a lot of like working together actively and constructively. It was more like friends memeing and occasionally sharing information. So is the vibe different based on who you are in the group, or what's the dynamic from your perspective?
I think we actually talked about this a little bit in call, where like people were calling us a study group, and he wanted like the point I think he was trying to get across was like it's not like we're watching CN VODs like before the tournament, like, you know, getting all the tech, whatever, like studying super hard. Most of the time before the tournament, we're really just messing around. But, well, not really like messing around, but we're just like sitting in call, like talking to each other, like sometimes backseating. But I'd say like specifically for me, it's just like we do VOD reviews after tournaments, like when you're going on to the next day. And that's sort of what really helps me a lot. And I think in that aspect, we could be considered in a study group, but the vast majority of the time, I think he's right, where we're just kind of like, you know, we're just having a good time playing TFT together.
That's right.
Cool.
They're memers at their heart, which kind of keeps the group environment really nice, because it feels like everyone there's no one's off limits. Everyone's allowed to flame each other and have fun at each other's expense, but also keep it in good spirits and whatnot. So I really appreciate that camaraderie. All right, Milala, we've had Nico talk for like 10 minutes now. It's time for you to jump in here. Talk to me about what was the big defining thing that helped you make that leap.
Yeah, sure. I think I've actually had like two leaps, I guess, like in my competitive career. I think the first leap was definitely like in 6.5. When I first like started like making like big tourney performances, and like at the time from like 6.5 and then the entirety of set 7, the only person like I would really talk to about the game was Nico. And that's probably like why I didn't make the next jump. It's like it was like really bad because like it was just us, and like we honestly didn't know like exactly like how well or like how good our ideas were. So like we were just like hella fucked like the entire time. So, like set 7 midset, like everyone was hard forcing siphon trainers. And like we went into the midset thinking like if we play vertical guilds, we're gonna shit on everyone. and then we held hands like 31st and 32nd.
Hey, at least you had a plan, man. That's better than music for a long field.
Yeah, so it was like really bad. But then like in set 8, we like started talking to like Weijin Iverson and Stellar Mini. And I think like that's when I made my next jump to like actually being like a really good player.
Got it. So the jump was to stop talking to Bossoskills and
Stop
start talking to
exclusively talking.
me.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. The journey of you guys are so interesting, but we are here to talk about Midset. Before we do that, we also have some news that we like to share with people, so that kind of sets a little bit of the topics of what's happening. The first is some really happy news. One of the members of Showtime Suck server is no longer there. He has graduated. Iniko has announced that he will be joining the Riot Games development team as on the game analysis team, which means that Iniko will be the person that you blame for balance now. You don't have to have Mortdog be the sole receiver of all your complaints. Iniko will be the one that would probably be a lot more community facing as well. I think this is just great news. First of all, it's just cool that Riot is hiring a challenger caliber player of Iniko's skill, right? Like, I think that's really cool that they're even considering hiring from this kind of pool of players. And two, it just feels like Iniko is one of the more eloquent people about what he doesn't like about certain mechanics or things that he feels like should be working and doesn't work, except XYZ. So I feel like he is one of the best people, if not the most qualified person that I can think of, Bryce.
I literally couldn't. I was asked. I could not think of anyone that made more sense for a role like this in the whole TFT community. And it just goes to show, by the way, like good behavior pays off, right? Like most people just kind of like casually flame Riot or flame Mortdog. And it's not that Nico's not critical. Nico's been very critical at times, but he's always reasonable about it. He always tries to explain it constructively, or at least usually does. He can type in complete sentences. If Riot communicates something, he will actually read and digest that information instead of responding without using that information as part of his response. So, I mean, I'm really happy with him. I'm super excited to get a Nico in game. I mean, I'm definitely going to be a person guy a lot, but
I like that.
He's super deserving. He's really, really deserving of this role.
Yeah. Nico, Milala, any comments about Iniko joining Riot?
Oh, I think Nico's a beast. I mean, he's one of the players that's really easy to get along with, so I can really see that he's, eloquent with how he says things, and he's one of the people who's always looking to make connections and like get new perspectives about TFT. Like one random day in Set 8, I think he just asked me to hop in call with him and just play a few games, and we'd never really talked before, but it was a pretty fun call. I lost like 300 LP and he gained like 300 LP, so we did a little switcheroo, and then I had to grind my ass off to make snapshots. But I mean, outside of that, he's just a really cool guy. The way he talks about TFT is it's refreshing to hear someone who's as well spoken as he is talking about TFT instead of just just screaming like bat chest, complaining about balance, that sort of thing. So I'm really glad for him.
Yeah, very much so. Milala, anything you want to add?
Oh yeah, I think that Nico is like definitely one of the players like I respect the most. He's like, I think like for me, he's like one of the guys that like actually thinks about the game and like actually has a lot of ideas about the game. So yeah, I definitely think like this is like something that he would be good at.
Awesome. I do want to share one screenshot very quickly as we transition this topic. Is that I just couldn't help but share this Discord conversation. Soju today, this is actually yesterday at 4:30 p.m., sent a message to Iniko saying, Riot Games, Dan's game. And Iniko replied, just went ahead and used my Riot Valorant client to make sure you never get the tree skin. No, nothing personnel, kid. Soju replies, already got the Ion, all good, little mans. I'm pretty sure Ion is greater than tree. Iniko says, he screenshots, I've been looking for the tree Vandal skin for a year. To which Soju immediately replies, bro, can you please get me the tree Vandal? Within 30 seconds, this 180ing is just fun because in the end, this conversation just helps encapsulate why Iniko will always be part of the community and always be one of us because he just gets it, man, from head to toe. I just thought that
he's
was
friends with everybody. Like you talked about him being a member of their server. He's a member of ours, like mostly caster server. He's a member of all of the servers. It's actually like so impressive how many friendships he has across the space.
Yes, sir. So congratulations, Iniko. We wish you the best of luck as he is starting pretty soon, I think. Actually, like in the coming weeks. The second piece of news is the one that's big, right? The reason why everyone's kind of hyped out TFT is 8.5 PB has released. We're not going to go too much in depth, but kind of want to get just initial reactions because, it's honestly, there's not other TFT podcasts out there really talking about things like this. So let's just get some kind of like TFT reactions off of 8.5's release with the champions that were in and champions released and new mechanics. We'll start off with Milala. What do you think about 8.5 so far?
Oh yeah. Actually, I haven't played any games and I didn't watch anything. But the only thing I know is that they added Jin, which is like the set 4 Jin, I think, with like the Dusk snipe or Dusk sharpshooter, something like that.
Mhm.
And then I know they added Ezreal, and like I play ADC in League of Legends, so like I'm just like hyped for that.
Nice.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Bossoskills, you kind of laughed. Is he a bad ADC or what?
Oh no, I mean we do it sometimes.
no.
But you know, unfortunately, I did get a little bit too high ranked for him recently. But I did actually play a lot of league games this morning, and I dropped
Wow.
low enough so that we can do again. So I'm kind of hyped for that.
Nice. Wait, what ranking are we talking here?
Oh, I dropped from Masters back to Diamond 1, so we can play again. 'Cause you can't do it in
And
Masters.
Malala, you're low diamond.
Oh,
No,
no,
he's Diamond
I was
1.
like, I'm like, it's just like because I haven't played enough games. Like he just plays too much League of
Oh.
Legends. Like if he played more TFT, he would probably would have like gotten at least second at Midset or something.
Oh, I like that. I like that. All right, well, let's
But,
talk a little bit more about TFT then, Nico. Have you got a chance to preview 8.5 at all?
Not. I'm kind of in the same boat. I saw I saw a little bit of like the videos. I think the trade team, the mega Ezreal and like the little Ezreal seems really cool, and like some of the trades seem really interesting as well. But I haven't really gotten a chance to play because by the time they released it, I think I was at the gym, and then I went to an escape room after that, and then I came here. So I haven't had the chance to play, but I'll probably play a few games after we get finished with the podcast. So I'll see how I feel then.
My God, he went from no grass to being too much on the grass. He's not even getting a chance to play
Yeah.
PB when it releases, Bryce.
Wow.
Bryce,
these-
give me your
the
initial
casters-
reactions.
The casters are sweatier than the fucking players, man.
That's always been the
Cheers.
case for like 3 sets now. Bryce,
Yeah, true.
hit me with it. What's your 8.5 initial read?
I mean, look, I'm excited about a few units. Jin, Warwick. I think new Twisted Fate looks really fun. I'm excited to see what
Mhm.
becomes best in slot Twisted Fate. I think like the throwing a bunch of cards and then the big red card at the end is super satisfying. They didn't change that many of the legendaries. Ezreal's cool, but like most of the legendaries feel the same, so really it feels mostly different at the 4 cost level. I haven't played enough to have any opinions about like is the design moving in the right direction or not. I will say that I think adding Morgana was really smart. I think that one of the brilliant things about threats is it allows you to control for certain tech. Like you shouldn't have to slam Last Whisper, right? You should be able to play around AD and play around other things. So it's like, hey, here's a Morgana that you can always, if you're willing to trade a unit for it, you can always get shred, right? Same thing with like Asol. If you're willing to trade a unit for it, you can always get anti-heal. I think that's really smart. I think it's like a really thoughtful design thing they're doing. That being said, like it's hard for me to get excited about it. If I'm being totally honest, I really, really hate hero augments. Like really hate them. So I think like both.
Oh, man.
The really sad thing for me about the last 2 sets is that I think that the core mechanic dragons and then hero augments have taken what I love about TFT and took it out back and shot it in the head. And I just don't think that you can have the version of TFT that I like with those 2 mechanics. I think there's a lot of other mechanics that you can do that could be really good. And maybe there's a version of hero augments that I wouldn't feel this way about, but I was pretty. If you go back and watch our like pre-episode, like the last episode of Set 7, I talked about how nervous I was for this, and I think it's panned out exactly as my fears. I just do not think it's a very skill expressive decision in the moment, and the trade-off is that playing flexible TFT is like not on the menu most games, and that feels like very bad to me. That combination. So they didn't take out hero augments, so it's hard for me to get hyped about 8.5.
Understood. I'm trying to just enjoy whatever is in front of me here. Bryce is done casting set A as far as we know, by the way. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
kind
fuck
of.
it.
I mean, Bryce is always unfiltered, but he's like especially peeling it back.
I mean, to be clear, anyone out there listening, I would love to cast Worlds. I would really love the opportunity to cast Worlds. I haven't gotten that opportunity in a little while. So just to be clear, I am down to cast more of Set 8, but I cannot cast regionals. I have a conflict, unfortunately.
I enjoy kind of just something new, something different. I like that a lot of the 4 costs that they brought. I think they're pretty interesting. So far, I'm enjoying what I am playing, but I could foresee it also like kind of devolving, especially if balance isn't really there. But we'll see. Again, it's the first few hours of PBA. I've enjoyed like the 2 games I've jammed, and we'll just leave it at that because everything else is just basically prediction. We have a long way to go before we get to that.
Wait, last thing I will say, I'm not a big like TFT nostalgia person. Set 2 is my favorite set, but I don't really want to go back and play Set 2 because I think I would maybe hate it if I played Set 2 again because I think probably it's worse in a lot of ways. if you ever think about it, Riot, I am super down for you to re-release this set with no hero augments, just standard augments all three. I think it would be I would love this set. I think.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm down if we ever get the opportunity.
Wow, Nico, do you agree with that?
Oh, in terms of hero augments, or in terms, I guess it's a similar question, but I mean, I'm not really a fan of hero augments either. I think specifically for me, like 2-1 feels really bad most of the time, because I think a lot of the time it just kills flexibility. Like, you take your 2-1 hero augment, and then that's kind of, that's kind of what you're playing for, like, at least the next 3 or 4 stages. But in terms of like the other hero augments, I don't really mind them as much. I think I would prefer 3 augments, but I think a little variety in hero augments isn't that bad. I think I would also slightly prefer the set if they re-released it without hero augments, but again, I don't hate hero augments too much. I don't feel that strongly about them either way, though.
Okay. I think that kind of mirrors more closer to how I feel. Milala, what about you?
I think hero augments are like pretty cool. Like I think it's fun. I don't know if it's like balanced or whatever. Like who cares if the game is
Definitely not
balanced?
balanced.
Yeah. I
Like,
agree they're fun. I agree they're fun.
it's fun, but like I guess in terms of like competition, it's probably not like the best thing. But yeah, it's like I think it makes the game like pretty fun.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, because I'm talking about like the things that I love about TFT. I feel like have not been on the menu for set 7 and set 8. Set 7, I think the mechanic was mostly just a miss. I don't think this one is mostly a miss. I think it's bad for what I like about TFT, but I think it's super fun. I think the notion of being able to turn any unit into a unit that you like want to play around as a core strategy is cool. And while they've never gotten all the way on there, I think they've fulfilled that part of the fantasy. I think you've been able to play around like way more units as core to your strategy this set than ever before, and I think that's really fun.
All right, and on that note, let's talk about mid-set of how these two players were able to weather the storms that came their way. So let's start from the very beginning. We don't have to rush through here. First of all, this was day number 1, and you might notice something kind of unusual. There was a player in 17th, Milala, who actually did not make it to day number 2, and somehow found his way into day number 2, taking Juke U's spot. Milala, what was going on through your head, like, as this was happening? Like, first missing the tiebreakers and then finding out you're gonna play.
Okay, so like going into midset, like I already said, like I thought I was like a top 10 player, but like my read going into midset was like I'm gonna start Bo, and I'm gonna flex like Jax, Duelists, Samira, and like Recons. But like obviously I was gonna lean more towards Samira because I was watching Mythic Cup and like the Asian Cup, and like they were playing like 3-4 way contested sure shots, but like they always ended on like an Aphelios board and stuff like that. And I remember Clear like typed in the Showtime Suck server, it's like, if you 2020 Samira, you're guaranteed 32nd. So I was just like, in my head, I was just like, okay, it's my meta read versus Clear's. And it's like I'll just bet on myself, like, fuck it, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
So then the first 2 games, I think like actually like first 3 games, I start Bo. I go for like 4-6, 2. But like my sure shot game was like Underground Cash Out. And another game I tried to play an Underground Cash Out game, I went like guaranteed 8. And then so then after that I was like this is fucking terrible. I need to change my game plan. And then I ended up starting Belt. And then that's like how I got a bunch of points. And like in the last game where I lose tiebreaker, I'm fighting Setsuko's Recombobulator MF3. Like he recombobulates into like
I remember that game.
he recombobulates into like 8 MFs, and like I'm just fucked. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, but then you found out that you're gonna play in day number 2. Were you even ready for that possibility? Were you like kind of doing something else?
Yeah, how long beforehand did you get notified?
I think it was like 20 minutes before. So like the day of, I knew it was like, so it was Nico's birthday on day 2.
Happy birthday, man! I had no idea.
And I was like, yo, Nico, you're not gonna miss day 2 because it's your birthday, right? And it's like, I got you if you do to miss it. But then all of a sudden, it's like Natures and like Juki are typing in the chat like that he has a Windows update, and like Wage and Iverson and Bossoskills are like pinging me like, yo, bro, like Juki might drop out, like dude, get ready. So then I was like holy fuck, and like don't tease me, bro. It's like, but then at the end, like 5 minutes before, Juki is like fuck this tournament, I'm gonna go to the pool party with my girlfriend, and then Nature's like, you're up. So then yeah.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, Jukyu was competing on a cruise ship, which is Pretty hilarious. First of all, I didn't even realize he was competing on a cruise ship, and
I didn't realize he was there with his girlfriend either. By the way,
I didn't know he was
yeah.
with his girlfriend.
I'm sure she loved that when he disappeared for 7 hours to play
to play a TFT tournament, only to not advance for the next day because of Windows Update. By the way, that's why he couldn't get it on because he had to download the new Windows Update. And how are you going to download a massive OS update when you're on a cruise with that kind of signal? I think some people are also saying, like, why is he even competing on a cruise? Isn't this kind of like not taking TFT esports seriously? To which I reply, that is a great thing about TFT esports. I say we double down. The next TFT regional should be on a cruise ship. We should go to outer space and compete in the International Space Station. We should go underwater, discover Atlantis, and compete TFT 20,000 leagues under the sea. I mean, that's pretty sick. The fact that, I can't even name another game that you could do that, Bryce.
I also can't name another game. I don't know about regionals, but I'm down for Summit 2 to be on a cruise. That sounds super fun. My guess is the content and the shenanigans would also be amazing. So, we can make that happen.
Showtime's in chat mocking me, but don't worry, man. You'll campaign and still not make it into that summit either. Let's talk a little bit about Bossoskills and your tournament as we pull up day number 2.
I need to give Malala shit before we move on from the fact that this guy cheeses his way into day 2 and day 3. I did not go back and do the math, but I'm pretty sure that you cost me both fantasy drafts, my dude, with the extra points you got on days 2 and 3. I was rooting for you. I was happy for you, but I was also advocating that your points should not count. I think we need a precedent on this for fantasy drafts if someone gets Windows updated into an extra day.
That's just the volatility of it, Bryce. Don't get Maul did nothing wrong. He just showed up and did exactly what he was supposed to. And Juki was cheering for him too.
I'm just giving him shit. I'm very happy for him. I was actually rooting for you. Like I'm really glad that you got the opportunity and that you made the most of it. A lot of people would not have been able to mentally lock in the way that you did. It's not easy when you go into a day thinking you're not competing and being disappointed about the day before and 20 minutes before it's like, all right, go. And you played great both days.
Yeah. Thanks. Let's talk about day 2 a little bit. Looks like you guys kind of, again, we're right there in that mix. Nico, talk about your days 1 and 2 heading into the final lobby.
First of all, I want to say for the pre-tournament, it wasn't really Milala's take against clears. Literally everyone told him Samira is ass, and if he's playing with 15-20 Samira, he's for sure gonna get day 1. And he just doesn't believe anyone. He's just I'm the fucking genius. After the set 7 mid set, by the way, and that was his. By the way, this was his guild talent take. He was the perpetrator of vertical guild was broken last set, and he passed on to me, and then we played one solo queue game. I was like, damn, this is hella good. So that was on him as well. And then this set he's up to the same thing. But anyways, so moving on, the sort of day 1, day 2 for me. This was probably one of my least, I would say least confident tournaments going into it, because Corrupted Cut I got day 1, and I was I was up 300 LP the patch before Corrupted Cup, and then we went in and I just got day 1, and then so we come into mid set, and mid set the days leading up to mid set I was fluctuating LP. I was down quite a bit at some point in time. I think I dropped 3-digit LP. Which I'm not normally at, so that was pretty bad. But then I think my 10 games leading up to mid set were all top 4s, and then I had my confidence back. But I had I was really worried because I had a different meta read from the rest of the group. I was gonna lean heavily into recons and anima, and so that's sort of what I did for day 1 and day 2. And I think I probably played. I saw Garrett actually playing a lot of duelists in day 1. And so for day 2, that was my comfort for the entire set was to play duelists. So I decided I would play a lot of duelists. And I think I played 3 games of duelists. Yeah. And I top 4 2 of them. And so, I felt really good about my sort of day 1 and day 2 performance and how well I played in the tourney.
Yeah, people might not remember, but at the very beginning of the set, Bossoskills was climbing to rank 1, kind of pioneering the duelist meta at high elo. And this is while we were at Summon, we had no clue.
This ladder was pretty free, in fairness.
Sure, but because he had a good read on it, if he was in Summit, he would have crushed all of us. And the 1 or 2 players that were trying to do this line also was having success in Summit too.
Totally.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to clarify for this ladder is free comments. I had 20 less days than Setsuko, a better average, and I was 300 LP higher than him.
Oh, yeah.
I was rank 1 by 312 LP.
Okay, but
That
the
is
thing
true. That is true.
Just wanted to
Setsuko,
say that for the
Setsuko was
record.
playing a bunch of those games with like 5 people standing behind him, actively trying to grief him. Like, no, bro, like this is the line for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
play
yeah.
this line, and it's like, no, that wasn't the line. Like, that's a fucking 8th man. Go next.
It was so fun. I've never seen Dish Soap actively try to troll someone like that much before. It was very, very fun to see. But also, Setsuko was proving day after day. He was. I mean, we tell the story all the time, but how he was so angsty about not playing TFT when it was releasing because he was filming his skit at the courtroom, and he was just so mad. And by the time he sat down, I think he probably got too worked up not playing TFT that he was definitely throwing because he wasn't like doing super well in his first placement games either, which was very interesting to watch.
He was kind of bad on the first day of the summit. We had him in our lobby like 2 or 3 days, or all 3 days in. We played a bunch with Tetsuko, and I remember the day 1, I was like, "Is this the same guy? Like, what's going on?" And then day 3, I was like, "Oh goddamn, man! Like,
Yeah.
he got good. Like, this is a busy 3 days for him."
He found out Vayne was strong, and then from there, the rest was history. He just started anchoring off his AD play, which Setsuko has always been very strong. Setsuko, by the way, tiebreaker, not making to the top 8, but that's considered like a disappointing result. But he still finished top 10, and it's because of tiebreaker. I don't think people should think like, oh man, Setsuko really like didn't end strong. That's still a great result, all things considering.
I mean, it's TFT. Like, I did not watch all of Setsuko's games, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe he played poorly in some of them. Maybe he low rolled. Definitely possible. But like, I watched all those games. I watched every game that Pros and Buzzy played on that day, and there's no way either of them are better than Setsuko, and they both have a lot more points than Setsuko, right? 3 and 8 more points than Setsuko. There's no way that Setsuko played worse than them on the day.
Yeah. And Setsuko, I mean, look, he almost doubled the points of Sox. Sox had a rough day. Robin still made top 16, but didn't really go much farther than that. So I think overall just shows you the quality and the caliber of play going into even just the final lobby, right? So let's talk about that final lobby. Milala, you had a pretty high and low day in terms of like posting it first and then going 8th right after. And I honestly, you weren't even really in contention for like a top finish until kind of the last couple of games there. So let's talk about like your day 3, Milala.
Oh yeah, sure. Actually, like I think like a few more things go my way. Like so, for example, like day 2 or in game 2, that like Wage and Iverson played the Camille into Z line. That was like a game that could have easily swung like either 5 points for me or like 5 points for him.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Because like he was like looking to go, like he was about to go like 6, and like I think if I clumped my back line against him as well, like I think I would have beat him too.
Dude, you could have saved Bosso as well, by the way.
Yeah,
He was first in that lobby like every time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like that game goes a little differently, and like the 3 of us are contesting for that world spot, like probably going into like the last 3 games. And like I was feeling like super spicy after my first Yumi game, so I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna run it back." And like I took Pandora's Bench. It was so bad. I've never done that before. Like everyone told me the stats on Pandora's Bench is bad, and like that you should never take Pandora's Bench in Yumi. But I was like feeling so spicy, like I'm Mort Dog's favorite son. I'm gonna hit everything.
Oh.
And I got bench locked like instantly. Like I couldn't even play the game, and I just went the fastest 8th of my life. And like going into the final game, like I wasn't really thinking about placing second. I was like just trying to get top 4 for regionals, and like at the end people in my chat were just like you were second, and I was like pretty excited.
That's great. Were you guys talking between games at all to each other? Like it felt like there was a high stress environment, but it didn't seem like it affected you very much. I'm just curious if you guys were chatting between games.
Actually for me, I think this final lobby was actually like the least like stressful. I think like especially for me, because I didn't really obviously I didn't expect to be here. I'm just like really glad that I even got like I made it to day 2, I made it past day 2, and I made it to final lobby. And, like honestly, just like seeing my like friends like Wage and Iverson and Bossoskills in my lobby, like I wasn't like super stressed. It's not like like no flame, but it's not like I'm playing as like new vowel like 15 games in a row. But like so it's, like, for me like the stress level was actually like way lower than like any other lobby.
Interesting.
Yeah, you guys were still like on each other's boards emoting at the start of every game. Like you guys were treating it like solo queue, it felt like.
Yeah.
Nick, did it feel the same way for you? Like lower pressure than it otherwise would have been, just because you? Oh no, you were because you. I was gonna say on video, and Milala, please have cam because it's way better. But like you look stressed as fuck during like certain times where you're like positioning and stuff. You looked so stressed as you were playing the game.
Well, I would say I think the main reason is coming into this, like as I said, I got day one corrupted, right? So this is like my best chance to make regionals. Because if I don't top 4 here, I have to probably get like at least like a top 10 or top 12 finish in Mecha Cup, which could be like different patch, you know, different set, whole lot of things going on. So I knew this was like my best chance to like seal regionals, and then I don't have to worry about it as much. Also, like that game too, that was the most disgusting. Like I played that game so bad, like unbelievably bad. Like not even counting the Wage and Iverson fight, like there were a lot of like small micro and like macro mistakes that I made that game. And then in like the fight that I lost, all I have to do is put a tank that's like not Echo in my backline, and I will never lose the fight. Because the only way I lose the fight is like the Echo taunts away, and then the Zed got like unit blocked. So then the Zed just walked into my backline and just killed my ace units. And that was like such a stupid mistake. And like I've played that scenario so many times and I never made. Anyways, like after that game, I was like feeling stressed because you know I harrowed the first game, I went first. I harrowed the second game. It should have easily converted it to be a first, but I like choked it away. And if I go 1-1 there, like I would be feeling so much better. You know, no one else would be that close to me, and I would pretty much have regionals locked already. And all I'd have to do is like get mediocre results, and at that point I could just really try and play for like the world spot. But I think because like I kind of choked away that game too, it put like pressure on me, and I stopped playing as aggressively for like higher placements. And I was like trying to make sure I got like my top 4s or like my good 5ths, and just making sure I don't go like 7th or 8th, so that I can try and like secure my 4th and go to regionals. And I think that I'm not gonna say like I could have won the tournament, but like because I don't think I could have. But you know, like if I had, like I think it really like took a toll on me mentally, and I was like really stressed playing like games 3 and 4.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to move on when you know like what could have been. For sure.
Okay, I'm curious. So you're right about the positioning, right? Like obviously, if you like swap Sedge backline or whatever, you can't lose. But with your positioning, were you still stunned that you lost? Like if you run that fight 10 times, how many times do you think your board wins, and how many times do you think his board wins?
Oh, I think it was like 1 in 100, 1 in 200,
Okay.
like some crazy fight.
Yeah.
Like his Zed like de-aggroed like my Samira ult, and like jumped behind my MF ult. It legit, it like literally dodged everything, perfect pathing. Like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was my fault. It should be, it shouldn't matter what fight RNG he gets there. He should never be able to win.
It's a good perspective.
Got it. What was your reaction to like watching Wajan pop off? It must feel also special because it feels like you guys also like are fans of Wajan. I can't tell. Last episode, Bossoskills, you were in chat, kind of gassing him up a healthy amount, I would say, but also dangerously close to that line. Is there something special? Is there like a bromance going on here that I don't know about?
I don't think so, but it's kind of just like you want to see your friends succeed, you know? So it was like, honestly, this might sound like kind of weird to say, but I didn't like really want the world spot that badly. I know that sounds like really like, I would have loved to get the world spot, but I would be like, after the second game, it kind of felt like I didn't deserve it, to be honest. Like after I made that mistake, I was like, I sort of hope someone else gets it, because like I don't want to go to Worlds in that sort of way where it's like I'm high rolling so hard that I can make like these sort of huge mistakes in games that cost me multiple placements and still go to Worlds, right? I want to sort of like get it authentically. So I was really happy to see him win. I would have also been equally happy to see Ryan win, because you know they're both my friends, and so I would have been happy to see either of them. But of course, congratulations to Wage and Iverson. He really deserved it.
Why are you laughing so hard, man? He's saying something really nice, and
That's gonna be real over here.
I know. What's going on there?
Sometimes whenever Bossoskills says something, you always have to take it with like a little grain of salt. Like you don't know what exactly he's holding in, and like he's holding something in. He wants to say like he wants to flame me at the end, but he's just holding it in because we're on camera right now.
Oh,
okay, is he
I see,
right? Were you holding something in?
No, I wasn't holding anything in at all. This guy's he's just an instigator. He just loves making shit up. That's like his comedy bit. He just loves just creating this bullshit, like his little big old innocent smile. Like I'm trying to have a wholesome moment here, and he just like giggling to himself.
all right. Well, Bossoskills talked about his biggest regret of the tournament, which is something one question I want to ask Mala. Do you have any like one singular moment that stands out to you of something that like you wish you did better, or maybe if you want to speak positive, since we're on a wholesome vibe here, maybe your favorite moment of the event.
Yeah, sure. I definitely think like going into final lobby, I was like kind of in the same boat as Nico, like in terms of the world spot. Like I also didn't feel like I deserved it, obviously, because like I should have been eliminated on day one. And I honestly think like Wage Iverson is like legitimately like a like astro beast. Like as soon as like I started talking to this guy in like PvE, and like as soon as like the set dropped, like I knew this guy was like an absolute freak. Like whenever I talk to him, like he knows like exactly like why he's doing what he's doing, and like I feel like the way we play is like pretty similar, but he just makes like half the amount of mistakes that I do.
Got it. Well,
Yeah.
that means he's pretty good, because I just feel like Waging in general was very clean all weekend long. If you didn't get a chance to watch his gameplay, it was also very inspiring in some ways, because I half the games I was watching when I wasn't casting, I was like, man, okay, like maybe he like top fours me here, and he just finds ways to just keep pushing. And of course, things fortunately fall his way. A couple of like really important matchmaking where Bossoskills mispositioning right in a fight where maybe he shouldn't have won, but still, I felt like that's exactly what it is, which is capitalization on opportunities given your way, and also just like doing really cool stuff that was, I feel like no other player in that lobby would have actually taken the same line, Bryce.
Totally. It's easy to fixate on the fight RNG and the like minor mistake, quite frankly, Nico. I would not beat yourself about that one too much, to be honest with you. You didn't do something like horribly wrong. You did something slightly wrong. And to be honest, when I looked at the fight loading in, I was like, okay, he clumped. Like he can't lose. Like his board is so much stronger. He made the safe, like the conservative play positioning. And yeah, but the flip side of that is that like I don't think anyone plays that line, and no one gets a second in that game other than Wage. And I like the fact like he win streaks all of stage forward, playing Camille carry, like abusing the like AD one when it's still really good. And then it goes from there. Like I thought he was gonna bottom out of that lobby for sure. It was a nutty second, one of the best seconds I've ever seen, actually.
Yeah. Oh, well, is everything okay? Your
Strobe
light
light
is. Are you having a rave at your house? And you didn't invite us?
Sometimes like the lights in my room get a little freaky.
All right. Okay. Either that or Milala's house was the stage setting for Stranger Things. It's really, really crazy what's going on in your background. We're just going to move on. On that note, one thing we want to do in these reviewed episodes is look at our power rankings and see how accurate we were. We won't spend too much time on this, mainly because it's a little bit poor form to talk about how smart we are, but god damn, were we smart.
This was good. We did a victory lap. Lap for once.
Out of the top 16, right, when we power rank 15 of them, that feels like a pretty fair criteria. We nailed 11 of them, and we only got 4 wrong in terms of the day one, which is Kurum, Iniko, Soju, and Ripple Overdrive. But thanks to Milala doing great. It's just missing Bossoskills, which we'll get also as well. We asked them to submit their top 15. I feel like this top 15 was good. This is one of our best hits, Bryce.
This is a really good one. And Bosso low-key griefed this too, because I actually have him on my list, and then I messaged him the day I submitted the power rankings. He's like, I'm not good. Do not rank me.
Really?
And I didn't. And yeah, 100%. And then 3 days later, he messaged me, never mind, I clicked, we're good. Which is why I drafted him. So thank you. But yeah, no. So I literally swapped. I had Minhee off at 16 and Bosso on, and then I just swapped them. I was like, all right, if Bosso's like not confident in his form, I had P-God at set and forget, or no, I think I had Clear at set and forget on 15 because I couldn't not rank him, but I wasn't convinced that he was good, that he actually like had the right beat for the tournament, and he was like running it down, and I was like, I don't know that I want to fuck with this, but I think he's really good at hero augments and good at the set, so I didn't want to not rank him.
Yeah, sorry about that. Someone invited me into a PBA game. I didn't realize my client was still open. Yeah, no, that's really fun how things change from even Monday to like Wednesday night in terms of
a lot.
The confidence. I just want to ask really quickly before I also reveal who had the best and worst ballots. When you're putting on these lists, Milala or Bossoskills, does that add pressure? Or does that feel like more confidence going into the weekend? We'll start off with you, Nico.
I think honestly for me, it kind of like I've never made like a consensus top 15 list, and I think being on one would actually add a lot of pressure to me. I think in general going into mid-set for me without like I pretty much had no pressure, which was like a really, really solid feeling because I didn't see anyone. It didn't really feel like anyone had any expectations for me. and I think that's sort of like what happened to me. Sometimes like the pressure gets to you in other tournaments. Like in Corrupted, I had never gotten day one in my life. I like psyched myself out about it because I was like, if I don't, I thought I wouldn't make mid-set if I got day one Corrupted. So I was like, all I have to do is not get day one. If I make day two, I'm a shoo-in, yada yada yada. I put so much pressure on myself, and I think that would sort of be a thing if like I'm not gonna say that people would like start putting me higher on the rankings by a lot, but if all of a sudden I see myself up there in the rankings like before Mecha Cup or like before regionals or something, I think that would put pressure on me, and I think a little is a good thing, and I have to sort of like get over that, but I think it was just a boon for me before mid-set specifically that I didn't have any pressure.
That's good. That's good. I guess you work really well in like an underdog situation, and then able to prove him wrong. Sorry, it's really hard to focus because Milala's light, for people who are just listening on audio only, it's ascended to a different level because he turned off the light behind him, but somehow there's still even more flickering to complete darkness.
We're back.
All right.
We're back. Okay, so I think it's an interesting dynamic, Nico, that like being ranked will add pressure. It's definitely something you got to push through because as you get better, it's just gonna happen more and more.
That's right.
I don't think Weijin is leaving this list anytime soon, and I think that you both actually could easily wind up climbing up here if you keep posting the consistent results. So
yeah. I mean, we'll see, right? Ripple had a chance to kind of prove that and cement it. Maybe that spot's open for you. We'll see. I mean, a lot can change to 8.5, and also who knows if all these people are competing in the next set as well. We'll end up seeing. All right, let's also look at the best ballots. And actually, hold on. So the reason I don't have best ballots, actually, now that I look at it, because there was a 5-way tie for people who got 11 correct. But there's only 2 ballots that missed and got lower than 10. There was 2 ballots that got 9 correct out of the 15. So it's kind of the worst ballots, but it's all in good fun because it's just predictions. It's DQA and Clear. DQA ended up putting people like Garrett and Cottontail and Replay, and then Clear ended up putting Minhee, Yogurt, and Pitsy. And these are like people that aren't bad votes whatsoever. It's just, I think it's just the luck of the dice. So as much as it's people who didn't actually get like the 11 out of 15, I think these are some names that you should keep an eye on because for 8.5, they're going to come back swinging, Bryce. Yeah,
I mean, putting Cottontail on your ballot was kind of trolling, given his the way he was approaching the tournament and his form at the time. But otherwise, I agree with everything you said. I don't really know anything about Garrett. I think Yogurt's going to continue to improve. I have not watched the VODs, but I get the impression that the pressure is getting to him by some of the conversations that I have seen. So,
we'll see.
People seem really high on him, and I'm excited to watch him pop off in tournaments as he gets a little bit more comfortable. It's a journey, man. It could be a long journey. I mean, we were having the conversation about Milala was being ranked in set 6, right? Like we were having conversations about Milala. It never quite clicked, and I think it's starting to come together. And I'm really excited. I'm glad you're like making the second leap. And then Bosso, I played in games with you forever, and I feel like it's starting to click for you as well. So yeah, I'm ranking both you guys for a while. I don't see that changing for the rest of the set, quite frankly. Like even at regionals.
All right, and with that, let's talk about the top 15 that Bosso and Milala submitted. So this is something that we're doing on our reviewed episodes. If Bossoskills and Milala were panelists on DTIYDK, what would they be submitting for their current top 15? Who wants to go first here? Milala, you're grinding a lot, and we also don't know how long your power source will stay on, so why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. So, actually, Nico sent me his power rankings, and, I took a look at his list. Obviously, he wants to have, one up me, so he has to rank himself higher than me, even though I've outperformed him in his entire career. But he also has to be humble, so he has to add a bunch of players that he probably doesn't think that are actually better than him, which is also why he's laughing to himself right now. But I, on the other hand, was very decently honest with my power rankings.
I see. So, but you put Wage and Iverson at number 1, so you truly believe that this guy, he's really up there, if not the best on the server right now.
Yeah, I definitely think Wage and Iverson is probably okay. Well, I said definitely, but okay. So I think my power rankings, they're definitely tiers. I think 1, 2, 3. I think people would argue is interchangeable, but I think Weijin and Dishlip are for sure 1, 2. Setsuko is obviously one of the best players, and then there's I think next tier is probably 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Robin and Kurum are obviously really solid.
That's a shot fired. You have Bosso.
Bossoskills at 10.
So, oh, there's a big fucking gap between 9 and 10.
Yeah, I actually kind of do think that like there was actually a pretty big gap right there. Obviously, I actually respect Nico a lot. Like, I think I would have put him like if I had like a battle, I would have put him top 15 going into set 8, like going into defender and stuff. He just never like put up like a good result until this tournament.
Wow.
So
Never
what do you
put up
think
a
is
good
what do you
result.
think is the gap between 9 and 10? Like, what do you perceive as like the meaningful skill separation?
Oh, so it's like, I think like 10 through 13 is like the next tier, like Basu to Soju. I don't know. It's like Sox is always like a little hit or miss. Like you never know if like he's being a genius or if like he's trolling. And then like Soju is also like one of those players that is like, it's just like you never know if he's gonna actually play the game or not. And so, like for me to like actually like rank like Nico higher, I feel like he need to be like a way more consistent in tourney. I feel like the way he plays is just like super top 4 oriented. I don't know if like that's good for tourney or like bad for tourney just yet. Obviously, like history would prove that it's actually bad for tourney, you know. But like this tourney, like he actually did well.
Wait, what? Well, history doesn't prove that in general. He might
No,
have
no, just for him.
tournaments, but like the
Yeah.
most consistent tournament player that I can think of on the ladder is Robin, and it
Robin.
doesn't get a lot more top 4 oriented than Robin.
Yeah.
Well, I think I actually don't know if like I would classify Robin as like a top 4 player. I don't watch him like too much, so like I don't know like too much about Robin.
He used to be, at least. I know he's been
Yeah,
trying to
he's
change
working on
identity
it.
the past
Yeah.
set in particular. So these days he's less and less. In fact, Robin, while he's not necessarily reflecting these tournament results with first race, on ladder he's been going first race a little bit more often, saying that he's trying to flex that muscle. So I think that's an interesting observation. Chat's kind of giving you grief, by the way, about Minhee and putting him 14th. I feel like you need to respond to that.
Well, I respect Minhee a lot. I think going into defender, I would have put like all 4 of us go like top 15. I think the issue is that like you can't like with his like results. I think like my PR is like mostly is pretty results oriented, and like with his results, I don't really think I could put him in my top 13.
Understood.
I mean, you have Clear at 8. It's not like Clear's been like a consistent tournament performer.
I think for this set, because he went second at Corrupted, and like I think he made day 2 in Midset.
He did.
And he did okay in defender, I think.
Yeah, he did great in defender. He made it to the second to
Yeah.
the last lobby, but didn't have enough points because of the final lobby. So.
Yeah, I think Clear's actually second in qualifier points right now.
Yeah, that's fair. If you're just doing it based on results this set, then I
Yeah.
totally get it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So, Nico, we heard Milala. He had the floor. He talked about the gaps. Walk us through. You start off with Dish Soap. You end with Minhee at 1 to 15. Give me the rundown, baby.
Oh, I mean, if we wanted to do gaps again, I think same thing for like top 3. I think 1, 2, and 3 is pretty interchangeable. I think, like for me, honestly, it would be like if we ran Midset again. I feel like starting like from day 1, I would just be most worried about having dish. Like I would not want to have dish soap in my lobby the most, and that's sort of like how I'm going off it. And then honestly, like
Makes sense.
I think Setsuko is like a really good player, but I think his read was like complete garbage for this tourney. Like he had the same read as Milala, where he's like playing this like a lot of AD flex, and he's playing like Samira Belbeth, which I feel like if you're starting Bo, those are like the 2 comps that you like want to be playing like the least. Well, maybe not Belbeth as much, but I don't think you want to be defaulting Samira. I think like Recons and Jax were a lot stronger going into this. But I think Setsuko was like an amazing player. It's just I don't think his read was very good. So I think that's like the gap. And I'd say like the next market, not to be contrary or trying to one up Milala here, but I would go like 4 to 8 probably. Just because
Guaranteed.
let's just
I
say,
locked at it in chat before we got there.
Broccoli, Kurum, DK, Robin, Bossoskills, Gap, Milala.
well, the thing is like, okay, if Jukyu's girlfriend was not on the cruise, Milala would have gotten day 1, and then he would be like 15th, right? Just because of results.
True.
So, like you can't like realistically put this guy above me when he's like talking about results and he's fluking his way into getting a second. Because if he didn't have this, right, he would still be the tournament choker. Like all he would ever have is like some final lobby choke jobs and like some mediocre performances. Versus like I am more like an up and like I'm not a turning choker. I just like you can see like a consistent rise in my performances. Like set 6, set 6.5, I was like 800 LP challenger player. You know, like day 1. Well, I never got day 1, but I was like day 2 most of the time is like sort of my peak. I made day 3 like once, and like through set 7 it was like day 3s and day 4s. And then now, like, if you take out Corrupted Cup, which was a fluke, then then like I had pretty solid performances where I think I went 12th at defender, and then I went 3rd at midset without having to rely on a fluke. So I think there's like a gap, and then it's like Kurum and Robin are just in general, they're just like really good turning performance. And then DQA and Broccoli both played really well at midset, and so that's kind of why I have them so high, since I sort of took this as like a set 8 review, and also like looking into set 8.5. Like I think Broccoli, you know, Broccoli had like dominance points. Like day 2 he won day 2, and then day 3 he was tied with me for 3rd, and like he was 1 away from second, being tied with Milala for 2nd. So we were like 32, 31, 31. So like we're basically interchangeable in terms of like how close we were. So I think I think Broccoli just had like a really, really solid performance.
Yeah.
And so that's why I put him there.
Really fast, I want to jump in on Broccoli before you keep going, because I completely agree with Nico on this. I think Broccoli was like an AD beast who then like studied under Pitsy, one of the better AP players on the server, and improved a lot. And I think Broccoli's raw skill of the game is insane, and his only issue, quite frankly, is that he's inconsistent in terms of his form and how much he's up to speed in the meta. So I was really surprised. This is the biggest point of differentiation actually in your two ballots, is that Milala, you have him at 9. So can you talk about why you valued Broccoli a lot lower than I do and Nico does?
Yeah, sure. For me, like I don't think, like I remember when Wajan Iverson was doing his ballot, like he didn't watch any of Broccoli VODs. So like I personally have like never seen Broccoli actually like play his own PvP.
Oh,
But then like I don't remember him putting like up good results for Defender or Corrupted. But he did do well at midset, obviously. But yeah, that's pretty much like my only take.
Okay.
You should watch Broccoli play TFT. He's one of the most fun people to watch on the server because most of what he does is intuition, and he's really good. So he's gonna have some plays in his games where you look at it and you're like, you did what, huh? And it does not make any fucking sense. It's kind of like Solus, but like with a little bit more consistent thinking behind the decision making.
He has reasoning.
But yeah, Broccoli's he's got his reasoning for sure.
Actually,
yeah,
I can add it because like I think there's like this one game, right? It was like the Shojin JG Shiv Belvet game. It's like I feel like it's like really hard in tourney. Like there's a fine line between like actually like the ideal version of playing TFT where people are like playing upgraded boards, like playing flexibly, like playing the units just to hold your thing, like actually playing the game. Because like I feel like when you're playing flexibly, it's like a kind of like a double-edged sword. You're just playing for like your good 4th or like your good 5th, but you're never actually gonna like top 2 or like even like maybe top 3 a like game. I feel like that's like kind of what I saw when in like those final games.
Okay, that's fair. That makes sense. And he needed to play for the win, right? That's kind of the criticism there. Okay, that makes sense.
Anyway, Nico, keep going. I didn't want to get off.
Okay, so hold on. It's just a recap. We have a big gap between number 8 at Bossoskills and number 9 at Milala. Okay, continue.
Yeah, and by the way, that gap, as much as you're using the results, it has to be said, man, because you were on my fantasy team. I was very excited about this tiebreak, but you guys got the same fucking number of points on day 1, man. Same number of points. Yeah, well, I mean, he did not belong there. Get this beaten out of my day 2 and day 3 lobbies.
You won the tiebreaker and he talked that much shit. It's crazy.
Tiebreaks are a tiebreak for a reason, but also I kind of threw one of the games on day 1. I also like threw away a free 2 points, but so there shouldn't have been a gap. But
true.
I think one of the last fights I was fighting a ghost and I got my carry Zephyr and I was completely wrong side like my entire board. But so I griefed a few points there, but it shouldn't have been that close. Anyway,
by the way, that's actually one small piece of feedback on your play from watching a bunch this weekend. You've got to clean up order of operations and turns. You spend the last 5 seconds of your positioning phase thinking about your future game a lot. The number of times I see you like not reposition like Shrouds and Zephyrs or like Sejuani, things like that. You just got to get it in your head that like that last 5 seconds you scout, you position, and then you figure out whatever you're thinking about after.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Okay, back to the list.
Back to the list.
So I think the next one is probably like a 9 to 13, and I think for like speaking for Clear, I didn't really know where exactly I would rank him. I feel like he's a pretty solid player, and he has a lot of solid insights when like he's looking and like watching. But I feel like a lot of the times when he plays, he like makes some mistakes and like commits too hard to some of his takes that he thinks like he commits too hard to some things that he thinks are good, and like sometimes in reality they aren't like as good as he expects, and so like he comes up short sometimes there. I think for Sox it's same sort of thing as Milala, where he's like really hit or miss. Sometimes Sox is like the genius of all time, and sometimes you just like he's like playing too flex, like he's flying too close to the sun and just ends up crashing and burning. I think like for Kivix, very very like high ceiling player. He's like insane to watch, insane tourney results, and I don't know, he's just like a great player, but he's very inconsistent. And then Soju, like honestly, I think Soju is very good, but I watched some of his like I watched some VODs of him like playing in this tourney, and I wasn't very impressed by like some of his lines. I feel like he just wasn't like as prepped as he could have been. I think Soju, like when he really likes the game and when he's really preparing to play, is like an insane player. But this tourney just didn't feel like that for me. And then
Makes
I have
sense.
Little Top at 14, who's not who like some people might be surprised to see here, but I just think he's a solid player. I watched his VODs from Corrupted when Wage and Iverson was like doing the power rankings, and I thought he just looked solid. He had like decent performance at mid set. He got day 2 to, I think in like 18th place or something. But I just think he's a solid player and an up and comer. And then Minhee, I've seen him play a lot in call, so I know Minhee's a good player, but I think the results just don't really match up to it for me to rank him higher.
I like that. It seems like you put a lot of thought into it, and I like using these these last couple of spots. I said it last episode as well, to kind of give a shout out to you think who aren't quite there, but you know what their ceiling is, or they're showing that flashes of brilliance. I agree. I think Little Top's shown a ton of improvement. I'll say it every time I can until maybe he gets the recognition. He's a really fun player to watch. Bryce is now like a lifetime fan of Little Top now after watching him this past weekend.
Dude, he meets all the boxes I'm looking for. He seems like a very nice guy, always smiling, always having a good time. He streams with cam on, and he pops off while doing it. It's great energy. And he really likes playing like actual TFT, like probably too good at TFT, to be honest with you. He got lost in the sauce a couple times. I definitely do not think he belongs to the top 15 right now, if I'm being honest, having watched 12 Little Top games this weekend. Or like, I think that he has moments where he looks impressive, and then he has moments where he is like a little bit, he's cooking a little bit too much, and it's kind of like what Malal was talking about with broccoli, where it's like, I mean, you're cooking, but is it gonna taste good at the end? Like, you're definitely cooking though, for sure. He has that kind of vibes for me, and he also has the same order of operations thing that you do. The number of times he like doesn't position at the end of fights is like, you know, it's really really important, especially as you're getting up in the power rankings, because this is areas where edge can be pretty small if you're all sweating. I agree, a lot of right now the lists are formed, but like for regionals when you're all sweating, edge is like hard to come by, and you gotta find it in places like that.
Yep. So definitely a good name to keep on the lookout for as we.
I want to ask
ahead.
one question before we transition. I'm really curious. You both put Kerm at 5th. You both value Kerm really highly, which surprises me a little bit. Right, he's coming off of 2 weaker tournament performances for him. So can you talk a little bit about, like, I love Kerm. I'm just curious for your perspective on it. I don't want to like bias anything. Why do you both value Kerm so highly?
Okay, honestly, for me, like this funny story with both Corum and Robin, actually in set 7, I like watched them play a lot, and I didn't think like they were any good at all, to be completely honest. But then like I watched more, like when I first started watching them, and then I like watched more and like saw the results. And well, the first thing I was like, I looked at the results, and they're like, I looked at their tourney performances. I'm like, wow, they're both smurfing every single tournament. Like, what's going? Like, something must, like, either I'm an idiot or they're high rolling every game. And then like it turns out I was just an idiot. And like they're both beasts. Like at some point, results like don't lie. And after that, like I was a lot more high on like Kerm and Robin. And then so like going into this tournament, I think a lot of people like going into Defender as well, like a lot of people had Robin specifically very high. And I think they're both like similar sort of players, with their top 4 kind of players. And I think like just in general, for me, this is like kind of a list of who I would be like sort of not wanting to see in my lobbies. And I think I sort of get that energy where it's like I don't really want to see Kuramex in my lobby, because I think a lot of times he can transform like those sort of 6s and 7s for most players into like a top 4. And it's not really like, for me, like the Kerm ranking was not really based on his tourney results or performance, because obviously, as you said, they're a little weaker than you normally expect from him. but like I still think he's just an amazing player, and that's kind of why I have him 5th.
I like that answer.
Well,
Yeah, I think for me, because I also water view with like Bosso, and we watch the same people. Like we kind of had like the same opinion on Robin and Kurum, like before set 8. And I think like for me, I actually wanted to I was like thinking about putting myself 5th and Kurum 6th, but I think, but like when I watch Kurum play, I think like one of his like points that he's really good at is like he'll like randomly like level 7 on 3-5, like no streak. But he's like really good at making like a really good board on 7 with like a really small amount of gold that makes him like ridiculously strong for just even like a few rounds that actually like makes his spot like really insane. That's like something like I would never think to do, and like I don't even know if it's like necessarily correct in order to place like his highest like average placement in his given spot. But it's like he makes it work, and like he always like usually puts up like a really decent like placement afterwards.
That's fair enough. Yeah, that fear factor is something that's so interesting, and maybe something I should probably incorporate more in my rankings as Bryce and I get more tournament experience ourselves.
yeah, right now I'm afraid of everybody. How about you?
Yeah, right now I want none of these top 15 players.
Yeah, none of them.
All right, and on that note, let's move on to our last major segment of the show, and then we'll wrap it up, is Agree. We just throw out some hot takes, maybe some room temperature takes, and just ask the panel if they agree. And so the first one is kind of similar to what we just talked about with Little Top. For official competitions, all players should be required to compete with their cameras on while streaming. Let's start off with Milala.
Oh, I guess I would say I disagree. Like I don't really have like a really strong take. Like I know like as a spectator, it's probably way better for like a spectator to see like the competitor with cam. Like they have that for like all the like bigger esports. Like I remember at SC2 they used to have it, and like League they have it, for Valorant they have it. But I guess like as a competitor, sometimes like you don't want to be thinking about like what you're doing on camera and stuff, and like you don't want to be like thinking about like that kind of stuff while you're in a like really high stakes competition. So I guess like for me, I would probably say disagree.
Okay, and that's totally fair. You are a competitor. All right, Nico.
Well, for me, I did compete with camera, so I think this was actually my first tournament that I have camera on, because, as Milala said, like the worry is you don't want to be like thinking about what you're doing with your hands, like do you look weird? What does your hair look like? That sort of thing. But honestly, for me, I didn't really like feel that my camera was on most of the time, so I would probably go with Agree. I just think it's because it's so much better spectator experience. It's better for like the sort of look of TFT as an esport in general. So I think just in terms of like funding and like how official, like in terms of growth, I think it would be good. But also at the same time, I recognize that for some people it might be a little more annoying for them. Like they might have bad habits or whatever. Like I used to bite my nails a lot, so if you have some sort of bad habits like that and you don't want to show it on camera, I think that's totally valid. But I think I would lean more towards Agree.
Okay, fair enough. Bryce?
Oh, I'm a giga agree with this statement. It's not that I don't see the issues on the other side. I do. I recognize that some people might make them feel more nervous, or like you might have bad habits that you worry about, whatever. I'm going to fiat for a second that everyone has a camera. If there's anyone who actually like does not have the technology or the internet capability, that's a different story, right? Like we should be providing a camera. Any TFT player that wants to stream with a camera that does not have one, seriously, if you're like anyone who's ever been ranked, ever gotten a vote for a rank, DM me and I'll buy you a camera. I'll send it to your house.
Wow.
Like, because the thing is, if you're disagreeing with the statement, you are optimizing for the wrong things, right? We need to be optimizing for the collective health and success of this game. We're a relatively pivotal part of our journey, quite frankly. Right, Riot is ramping up resource investment right now. Right, I would expect to see TFT esports grow a meaningful amount in the coming 2 years. We just got our first hires for TFT esports not that long ago, like dedicated TFT esports people, and so if you want this to be successful, we need stories. And quite frankly, some of the only storytelling that actually happens in the TFT community is this podcast, right? And like we've done multiple face reveals of people either on the show or on the rankings, and like we get to know you guys. Like I learned a lot about both of you today for the first time, and I think that's part of what makes it so fun. And so for me, it's like we need, if you want to tell stories, then we need human beings that are playing. If you want human beings that are playing, we need to be able to see you playing. And I'm sorry if that means that like you have to slightly adjust your behavior, or if it means that like something goes wrong for you when we see you like get upset. Like that sucks. It definitely sucks. But that's we should all be part of that same thing of like all investing in the growth of the community. And I think as a sports thing, we shouldn't be putting these types of artificial limitations on ourselves. Like it's already hard. We're not in the same physical space, right? Think about how fun Summit was in comparison to this. And like not being able to see your faces makes the product drastically worse.
Yes.
I really do not think that can be overstated. And so for me, this is like such an easy agree, even knowing the trade-offs.
Bryce said pretty much everything I said. If you really want to partake in TFT for yourself, I understand why you don't want to have camera, and I'm not gonna bag you on it. I think like Kerem, for example, pushed back really hard the first time I asked him to it, and he helped show me a little bit of like why he needed to do that. But at the same time, if you want something more than just your own experiences in the TFT tournament, you want the scene to continue to develop, it's really important to get people more engaged. So if anything, I applaud people like Bossoskills. That's why Little Top is so fun to watch. Knickknack's in chat. Knickknack turns cam on when he does. Yogurt is talking about how nervous he is, and he turned his cam on for tournament. So proud of that guy, and I think it'll only translate to more success if you do end up going to LAN. You recognize that, because I know Clear's in chat saying like, if you want cams, invite us to LAN. That's not how it works, man. The LANs are so much less likely to work if you're not actually even willing to cooperate with the program in the first place. Also, someone wrote in chat, Nightstar says, Shadowverse increases the prize money if they have cam on for the tournament. That's a really interesting thing that I never considered. Maybe I can see if Rye's willing to do that, or Wisdom. I think that'd be pretty fascinating. Because that means Bossoskills won't be sad that he's minus 1,500, right?
Maybe if I get plus 1,600.
Yeah, there you go.
It's his appearance fee.
Chat was kind of split, but a slight favored agree, like a 55-45 split. I think that was a good one. Let's go to our second agree. North America has the most depth of any competitive region in TFT at the moment. I know this is a biased podcast, of course, we're NA focused, but I just want to get some opinions. Start off with Bossoskills.
I mean, honestly, this is like a really hard question to answer, right? Because it's not like anyone has the time to, go watch, KR, EU, China. Like, you can't watch all of the other regions. But, I mean, to say best is kind of hard, but I would say we have like I think we're definitely one of the top regions that has like a big diversity. Because I think we were having a conversation about this in Discord before, and like we were talking about how strong China is, and I was saying I feel like China is not really that strong outside of like their top 2 or top 3 players. And like as a region, I honestly think NA is probably stronger if you look at like the the sort of like next 15, next 20, that sort of thing. So like in comparison to like the big region that everyone talks about, I think the answer is probably yes. So I would agree.
I love that answer. Milala, you're grinning way too much. Are you about to disagree here?
Oh, I feel like just like statistically, like you have to disagree that like there are like probably like there are actually like so many Astro cranks in like China that like there's probably no way that NA is the most deep. But like, I definitely agree. Like sometimes like when you watch the CN stream, like there are like these guys that you never heard of and like you actually have no clue what they're doing. But like I think like definitely like but I feel like there are actually like a lot of like really good Chinese players like at the very top. Like there are a lot like more than just like the top 3, like probably like the top like 15 or something are like Astro cranks.
Okay, interesting. So he disagrees because he's going off the stats, Bryce. But Bryce, you answer from the heart and the eyes. Hit me with it.
I mean, I'm going to disagree. I would love
Here's
Here's pointing out a data point that is in our favor, which is that NA has highest average placement at Worlds, which is pretty good. That is a good stat for us. I think we've low rolled a little bit of Worlds final days. I think that Ramkev or DQA in set 4, DQA wound up finishing 9th. I think he got tie broke out of the final lobby. And then Goobums, was it set 5 Goobums?
Set 6 Goobums.
Right?
Set
6 Goobums. I think they were every bit as good as the best players.
It ended in 4 games. There's no way you could have decided who was the best player that day.
Yeah. There's just like too much. There's a ton of variance in Checkmate. There's a ton of variance in TFT in general, right? And so for me, I don't think that like the fact that we haven't won a world championship says a whole lot. We haven't had that many world championships, to be honest. But just the volume of players, man. There are just so many fucking players in China. Like, surely they are deeper. I will say that this is the deepest we've ever been by a fairly significant margin. I am stoked to be sending Wei Jin to Worlds. I think he's going to be an awesome representative. And no disrespect to AMD, but he was not a polished player at the level of what Wei Jin is right now when he qualified through Midset. So I think we kind of high rolled who qualified through Midset, quite frankly. I agree with the assessment that he belongs in the top 3 right now. And I think reasonable minds can disagree about what the order of that is, but I think he's definitely in the top 3. So anyway, I think that there's a good chance we're going to send a really deep roster, and that I think we will be like super competitive at Worlds this year. But that does not, or champs. God, I gotta stop saying fucking Worlds.
No, you don't. You're not there at Worlds yet, or champs.
Yeah, there you go.
You can say whatever you want.
Anyway, it's so unlikely that we are the deepest, but but our Worlds reps might actually be pound for pound just as good.
Interesting. I'm going to just go with a soft agree right now. And I feel like I'm one of the most qualified people to make this statement. Because I actually do watch every region I possibly can. And I just got to say that it's not that I think it's because China is not good. I just think that they got gapped really hard in Sat 8 by the patch cycle. How they had the month-long patch into the Lunar New Year, which delayed their other patches. So I watched their tournaments, and it just felt like they were really behind. They didn't even know the clear TFT, cleansing, safeguard, double Lee Sin tech. They were playing like one Lee Sin. So I was like, oh my God. The first time I was watching this on stream, I'm like, China's behind. And it was like it was a weird moment for me to realize that North America was actually pioneering a good amount of the meta for all of TFT. And I think that's why I focus on at the moment. I think if everything resets at 8.5 and China's again hard sweating because regionals is what matters to them, and there's a 250K prize on the line for them, maybe it just goes back. But I think right here in my heart of hearts, I believe North Korea does have the most depth, and I hope that keeps up for at least 2 more months. I don't know if that will, but I'm gonna go to agree. Chat barely disagrees. Again, a 55-45 split, pretty contentious. But I really like the state of North America, and I just couldn't be more happy about how things were developing right now. All right, our last agree, and I hope it's a good one. Assuming reasonable balance, the glitched out carousels mechanic will be great for competitive TFT. This is the defining mechanic for set 8.5, the glitched out carousels. Let's start with Bryce here this time.
I mean, like, isn't it just like crazy amount more variance in the game? It's like really hard for me to envision how adding more like extreme variance in these moments is like better for TFT. And I'm not saying that there's like no skill expression, because there were some carousels today where it was a champion and 2 items, and obviously because they're popping off, that created a lot of very interesting decisions where I was like, okay, I'm evaluating 2 item components together with a unit. That's a lot of additional data, so there is probably some more skill expression going on in some of those moments. But overall, do I think that this is going to be good for TFT, like competitive TFT? Probably not. I think it's probably more for fun than it is good for competitive. I don't think it's gonna like ruin competitive either. I played some lobbies today, and it like didn't feel like it was like, oh, now the game is like too much variance and you can't express skill or anything. Didn't feel like that at all to me. But I don't think this is gonna be good. So I guess I'm a soft disagree.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go to Milala.
I'm actually not too sure exactly what the mechanic is.
Oh, you don't even know what it is. Okay, so go ahead, Bryce.
So the carousel can be a bunch of different random things. We don't even know all of them yet. We haven't played enough games. Mort says there's a lot of possibilities, including some really low likelihood. But it can be things like there's 2 item components on every champion. So you see like a bow and a sword. Or there's a duplicator over every champion, so everyone gets a duplicator. Or instead of a champion, and therefore gold, right? Like you can sell the champion of the carousel, you can get an item anvil. So instead of getting a champion plus a component, you actually get a component plus you get an item component anvil that you get to rip and you get to pick. Or later in the game, you can get one that's a completed item anvil plus a completed item over top of it. So it's an interesting, it's a curveball that you can get 1, 2, or 3 times in a game depending on RNG
knuckleball
on carousel.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't sound like that'd be good for competitive, but it sounds fun for sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna
disagree
have
from
to
the
disagree.
wall.
Yeah.
Oh, Draconic Eggs is the best one.
Yeah,
by
the
the way.
Draconic Eggs is what really gets me. I'll just
Yeah,
go here and then Nico can go last, which is they really had me with like, okay, there's every duplicator is not the same, by the way. There's a lesser duplicator, which means you can only use a duplicator on 1 to 3 costs, which I think is a really cool thing, and I like that they're playing around with these kinds of concepts. I don't mind extra resources. I mean, hell, it's really fun to see crazy amount of resources in some games, and then what you have to do is a little bit more limited. When it's a Draconic Egg, and it's like, you don't know how many turns it's going to be. If it's going to be 3 turns, 8 turns, 11 turns, and you're loose streaking, and you're just like, oh my god, I don't know what's going on. I think they need to dial it back just a little bit right now from where it currently feels, and thank goodness it's on PBE. They can change a lot of things. So I'm a soft disagree right now as well. I don't think it's going to be great, but I do think it's very fun. And at its core, I do think that I want to just have fun with TFT. So I know that it's not the highest priority for them because competitive TFT is just a side thing that they do on top of their main game. But I wish that they could just scale it back just a tiny bit. All right, Bossoskills, you wrap us up here.
I'm hard to disagree. I think this is very, very bad for competitive TFT. I haven't played anything. Disclaimer: I have not played this at all. So this is just like theoretical.
Reaction.
He has a strong
Reaction.
opinion without listening or knowing what it
This
is.
is just purely theoretical. But I think in general, like this reminds me. So like first patch of the set was like super heavy rolling on 3-2, and I think like one very big worry with this is like assuming you get like duplicator item. You can make like a 2-star 3 cost on stage 2, and I think it punishes loose streaking very, very hard, especially if you get like like 2 components or something on a win streak board is much stronger than getting 2 components on a lose streak board, and like getting the champion duplicators to get like a Nyla 2 or something. It's just like a lot of power, and I think it wasn't really necessary at all. I mean, I know like they're making it like for fun, and it clearly seems more geared to like the casual players, but I can't imagine like how they could ever balance it to make it so that this sort of mechanic would ever be good for competitive TFT or even net neutral for competitive TFT.
Okay, can I make the quick counter argument just because I think it's worth having
Sure.
out there really fast?
Of course.
Because I lean your way too. But for what it's worth, there's some interesting dynamics where like getting 2 components from behind or getting a duplicator from behind or whatever is really good if you're planning on then rolling gold in stage 3 to build a board, for example, right? Or if you're planning on like if you're a high roller that's going to skip stage 4, then you get less value out of that a lot of the times, right? If you're at stage 3 carousel going to stage 4 or stage 2 carousel going to stage 3, then someone who can like roll and is going to build a strong board and can try to use that duplicator right away or like get those items on an upgraded 3 cost right away. So I think and then also like more item components in the game theoretically like gives more opportunity for skill expression or like it's like a slightly higher offering of power for your board, which might level things out. Like I think there's some arguments that this isn't like going to be disastrous, but I mean I lean your way as well.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to see. I mean, again, these are just initial reactions. Bossos hadn't even played a game. Milala didn't even know what the mechanic was. So take our opinions with grains of salt, please. It was just topical based off of 8.5.
Pounds of salt.
Speaking of results that should be taken with a large grain of salt, I think it's just time we show the fantasy drafts in the quickest way possible, shall we? Just a quick recap. Bryce won Defender Cup Fantasy by 7 points because he's a high roller. I won Corrupted Cup by a big gap because I am skilled.
A giga high roller.
And the results are in for the mid-set finale. DQA high rolled so hard because Milala snuck in and blew out the competition. It was really close in day number 2 because we all had 3 players in. And then when Milala got in over Jukyu, that blew the doors wide open. Not to mention that I also bombed out really hard on day number 2. I don't think I'm ever going to draft Sox again. Period.
It actually was the gap, man. Milala's because you got 27 points on day 1, right? So it's 60-point delta for DQA.
Yeah, it is. It is the gap between Bryce winning his second. It's
literally winning by a point. Fuck.
Oh my god.
Fucking juke you diffed, man. This is some bullshit.
Something about
You'll be hearing from my lawyer.
Something about cruises and TFT players. Bossoskills went on the cruise and sprinted down 500 LP at the beginning. They said GQ gets on the cruise. Griefs Bryce Fantasy. I don't even know what's going on.
That being said, Bossoskills, excellent performance.
Yes,
Very good.
I would just like to point out I do actually have more points than Milala does overall if you're looking at the tournament as well.
Yeah,
No matter how you look at
and
it.
The gap between you guys is fucking massive. It's massive.
Yeah, 1 point differential. And I love that. Shout out to Sims, by the way, who maintained this spreadsheet. Also is retiring from spreadsheets.
No.
Highlighted Milala's name in red just to emphasize that he should not have this many points. He should be eliminated. But hey, that ends our fantasy drafts for set 8, which means Bryce and I both have a win, and DQA has a win. We'll see who gets the last laugh at the end.
I
of
have
8.5.
2 wins, man.
Bryce
There's
has
no
1
way.
win on the record.
I have 2 wins. Two wins.
In Bryce's mind, he has 2 wins, which is, in Bryce's case, all that matters.
Yes, agreed. I agreed.
All right. And with that, that is the closing of our show. Our next episode that we're going to be airing, this is probably the saddest part of the show, is that we're actually off for like 5 weeks because the Mecha Cup is the next tournament for set 8.5. And we pretty much just power rank and do previews and review shows. The episode is going to air on April 20th, but today is March 7th. So we got a long break. Maybe we'll do something in between, but that's something to look forward to, Bryce, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Great. Mecha Cup. Are you going to play?
I'm not casting it, so yeah, maybe look.
Hell yeah.
So
I can. I'm busy both weekends, but I'm down for you to win it all.
Okay.
And then I can say it's because I wasn't in the field.
That's right. We can prep together and see if we can collectively make it to a day 3 finally for the first time.
I believe in us.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get some final thoughts. Any last topics people want to discuss? We'll start off with Bossoskills. It's been a great episode.
I think that's it for me.
All right.
No final words.
No final words.
No big gap between you and Milala. Nothing.
Oh, I mean, we already knew that. It's something that doesn't need to be said.
True. All right. Ryan, Milala, hit me with any last thoughts here.
Yeah, I was just like, to be honest, I'm just really glad that I got invited to the show. I'm really happy that I was able to do it with Nico. So thank you guys for having us on. Excited to perform again in 8.5, and hopefully we 4 out of 4 all make it to Worlds.
Love it.
Hell yeah. All right, Bryce.
This is a super fun episode. This one, I also really enjoyed the one with Clear Invasion. I think some of my favorite stuff that I do in TFT is watch the up-and-coming players, because I think there's a lot of people who are only interested in watching the people that are already known, but I think some of the most interesting and best TFT is being played by some of the up-and-comers. You guys are certainly the hungriest. You're working the hardest in a lot of cases. So thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you guys giving us the time and getting a chance to get to know you guys a little bit better, and looking forward to you continuing your journeys.
100%.
Thank you.
All right. Well, for me, that's pretty much it as well. Bryce won't be casting set 8 for the remainder as far as I know. So whoever I end up casting with regionals, I hope you can try to live up to Bryce's reputation here, man. Because
it's very easy. Just let Frodan carry you, and then
no. Wow, what a different dynamic between Milala and Bossoskills. We just kind of keep pushing each other up, and these guys can't stop beating each other down. But before
it's because we're old, Dan. We're too old for that shit.
That's right. We almost have no time left. Before we kind of kill each other with kindness at this point, if you guys missed any part of the episode, you can always check out our stuff on YouTube and Spotify. And also, if you happen to be listening on Spotify, give us the stars. I just noticed that there's some viewers giving us 5 stars, which helps us get recommended to other people on the podcast. That goes a long way. Also, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/DTIYDK show. That's it from us, from Frodan, Bryce, Bossoskills, Milala. This has been DTIYDK episode number 20 with the Midset Review. We'll see you next time for more TFT action. Peace.